everyone. Thanks for joining me for Where I'm From, number 38 with Kim. I'm very excited. Here's what I'm reading. I remembered my book this time. I'm reading Negroland by Margot Jefferson, and it is excellent. Life growing up in upper crust Black society in Chicago and kind of Talented Tenth, Jack and Jill, all that stuff. And it's really beautifully written. And hey,
Hi,
we did it.
we did it.
I always feel accomplished. It's nice to start off something feeling accomplished. And when I arrive here and my guest arrives here, I feel like we did it. We made friends with technology.
That's right. It does take some effort.
It seems like it's usually a bit of a nerve generating thing for my guests. So I don't know if you were in that club.
Yes, because I was going to use these and then I couldn't hear you. And so, yeah.
Yes. So you're here. So anything you want to say that you want to do before you read your poem?
I just want to say thank you. I've loved that you're doing this. It's a great framework for people to have to be able to tell really unique parts of themselves. So thank you.
That's really beautifully put. It is. It's so nice to have a framework, right? Because if I just asked you to come and tell me some things about your childhood, it'd be
It's too much.
Super awkward and no one would come.
It's already hard. Yeah. But yes,
Yeah,
this is a
I
good
think
framework to make it possible.
I think the part that's hard is, at least from my observation, is the imposter syndrome or whatever you want to call it, where people are like, oh, I'm not a poet.
Somebody actually, a friend wrote to me and said, I didn't know you were a poet.
I'm not. I am also
Yeah.
not a poet.
Yeah.
No.
But this is it's a really great exercise. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm so glad. We might cover it later, but I'll just say it now. I have been gently harassing Kim since I started this for her to join me. So, for those of you who I'm still gently harassing, who have yet to join me,
Do it.
Yeah, uh, it's fun, and I'm always so happy to see faces that I have been gently harassing. So,
All right, here we go.
okay.
Where I'm from. I'm from window air conditioners, from Happy Meals and Rainbow Bright. I'm from the hills in every direction, verdant, rolling, a compromise between the jutting coal-rich Appalachias to the southwest and the horizontal swampy farmland of Jersey to the northeast. I'm from the peony bush, the persimmon tree, whose fruit I loved because I loved my grandpa. I'm from homemade cherry pie and arms heavy with shopping bags from Saturday at the mall, from Alberta and Clayton. I'm from the bursting laughter and the rage on the road, from you're smarter than the average bear, only child expectations, and sliced onions in your socks for a fever. I'm from as I lay me down to sleep, grace even out to eat, and the pettiness of sin and a vindictive God. I'm from Gould's and Smith Holler, sausage gravy breakfasts, and Old Bay dusted blue crab afternoons. From dinners by my dad at 5 p.m. sharp after construction work, from a 90s woman in a hungry corporate world. In my mom's highboy dresser, there were stacks of important papers. Among them, my certificate of birth, race marked as Black, though my hair and skin could only partially succeed, even in the height of summer's humidity and melanin's rise. All these disparities, negotiated in dreams before my flesh came to be. I am from those moments of compromise, of the North and the South, black and white, and the family tree. Thank you, Allison.
I loved it, obviously. Negotiated, I should have the poem in front of me, but that line, in your flesh, I was just caught up in it, so I don't remember it word for word. But
when I wrote that, I was like, ooh. When things come out and you're like, oh.
Ooh, that's, it gave me the chills.
Negotiated in dreams before my flesh came to be.
Negotiated in dreams, yeah.
Because I was just thinking about all the different ancestors and it's really powerful to think about them. And I think what was so great for me about this exercise, Allison, is it was just a really great chance to reflect. And I just did pages and pages and pages of memories. And, they can't all fit, right? And then
you're like, well, mine is 3 hours long. Is that okay?
Right. By the way, we're going to do live all day on Friday.
It's stream of consciousness.
And, some of the memories, like, they don't fit the format, which I really like. That sometimes when I love a structure, because you had to let go of certain, ones that you loved, but they just didn't go with other memories. But what came to be from doing this exercise, and what I've always known, is this disparity of my existence, having a Black mother from the North and a white father from the South, and then them meeting in the middle in Maryland. And even the landscapes are disparate, right? It's like these mountains from my dad in the South and this flat farmland from my mom. And then they met in these green rolling hills in Maryland. And so I just kind of decided to focus on some of that. And then, my dad in construction work and my mom in corporate world. So I just thought of all the different ancestors and all their different backgrounds that came together in these negotiated dreams. So anyway, it was really fun exercise to do. Thank you.
Yes. No, I'm so glad. I knew you would have, because I know you. Kim is a friend of mine. And I know you, and I knew you'd have a lot. The first picture Kim sent me was her and her mom, which was adorable. And I was like, oh, maybe I should try to find a picture of me with my mom. But then you sent me one of just you from the same day, which was adorable.
Yeah, and it was a total 80s, like,
oh my God,
palooza.
The Coke and your little shirt,
pony,
your tummy.
Yeah, crop top. It's all back. Yeah. Crop top.
I know.
Big shoulder like they weren't shoulder pads, but like the shoulders on the shirt go out.
The
and
like
then
poofy shoulders.
The background, in the background, it's My Little Pony and Care Bear balloons.
You were living the dream, Kim. You were. 80s. One of the comments was like, look at that Coke. I also would not have been holding a Coke. So, especially in a can. Like, I might have gotten it, when you go to the pizza place and you can like fill
like a treat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not like a can. That there's some weight to that. I don't know. It's different.
Well, and my tiny hands wrapped around it, right? Like,
I got this Coke.
It was a birthday party, but our fridge had one shelf dedicated to Coke. I didn't put that in here, but yeah. That was the other thing that was really fun for me. And I don't know that everybody did this, but it was fun to think back to brands from my childhood and like what all those brands meant and like how they permeate our consciousness and how relatable or not relatable they are and like what it says about your experience too. So
I still remember TV commercials, like the jingles, Mon Chi-Chi. Like forever, I think until I die, I will be able to sing the Mon Chi-Chi song, which isn't a skill I need, but it's something that I can do. And like, I don't know any commercials now, but we watched commercials because we had no choice.
And it's fun as I've moved around the country to find out like which ones you didn't realize were local to you and which ones were national. Yeah.
Cal Worthington and his dog Spot. That's one here. That is like big, big, big. He never had a dog Spot. Spoiler for anyone who isn't from Southern California. Cal Worthington and his dog Spot was always a wild animal. It was a hilarious commercial in a used car lot. So yes, because local commercials are actually the best, I think.
I was going to say,
they have such strong personalities. These people who are like, I'll be the talent, Okay. I don't know if that's the best
Tacos
choice.
Is about the only one. I guess that's a radio ad. I can think of from LA. We always sing that one.
This is a tangent. So is there anything that you want to say, any additional things? Because we had a conversation before we had this conversation. So do you want to expand on the poem at all or anything you want to clarify or discuss further?
Yeah, I just, writing about race is hard. It's hard as a white presenting woman. It's hard, I think, it's just challenging. And so I just hope that, that my words make sense and feel okay to people in the ways that I want them to. or uncomfortable in the ways I want them to. Right. But I hope that they're able to be felt in the context that I meant them to be. It really comes back to most people who grew up in Maryland feel like they're a part of the North. Just, I don't know, I know you're from more West Coast, but when I was born, and I don't know what the laws are now, it was still if one parent is Black. I don't know that it was one drop rule, but it goes back to those racial politics. So, so my birth certificate says that I'm Black, and I never benefited from that, like in college or anything. It's not like
you never used it as a
right, but it's there, and the expectation of what that meant. That in some ways I felt lacking about, right? And so anyway, every person I know who is biracial is still always navigating those things. And I think it's really interesting because of my vitiligo. I feel like
I was actually, because we talked about that as well, I was like really looking at your face, which makes it weird that I'm not always looking at your face, but I'm not. I'm sort of listening to you and experiencing you. And it's like, oh yes, it's definitely made you more white presenting. I haven't really thought about it until it was like, and you're like, no, this
it's showing my conflict as I walk around. I can't hide much, Allison.
You're like, here's what I'm dealing with right here. I mean, this is something we've talked about, and I didn't know if you would talk about it in your poem. I kind of thought you would, but you never know, because certain things, like you said, you can write like pages on this prompt, and then you kind of have to choose, like, at least I did. I had to choose sort of the age I was when I was writing it or thinking about it, and what story I was going to tell. Like, was I going to go real dark? Was I going to go light? Because of course we're full of memories and they can hit us in different ways. So I didn't know. And I thought it was interesting that you sent that picture with you and your mom, because I felt like, so I didn't know that you had a Black mom until I knew you for a while, Right. So I thought like, wow, I'm sure that it's I can't even imagine what that experience is like, where there's this, because I already hold that kind of like feeling of like, oh, I want to tell people like what I've lived through or who I am. But that's a whole nother category of wanting to do that.
That's been an interesting journey for me too. It's because, and what you said about, for people who are doing this exercise, to pick, because that was the hardest thing. So I grew up in like DC suburb utopia, literally, until I was 10. And then my parents decided they wanted a farm in very small town, racist, like, I mean, literally.
No to the farm.
I was, I would change the test scores because I was one of the so few Black people in that district. Like,
and they would classify you as such because it says that on your birth certificate.
Right.
Is that where that comes from?
Yeah. So it was just this, again, very disparate experiences. Am I going to talk about like suburbia, like in the 80s, which is like, all that stuff, or this other experience, which was much more, the time felt like it was much from a different time than the 80s, right? Or by that time it was the 90s. It felt like it was still.
Well, and did your experience of yourself shift? I mean, I would assume that because even just moving from California to Colorado, which I did, I saw myself and, like whatever, most people were white in Colorado, not so much in Southern Cal. And even that sort of like experiencing my whiteness in a different way, even though it wasn't like hitting other people really at all. It was still just like, I don't know if you had the experience of like, oh, I kind of just assumed everywhere was like here.
Well, when we moved to the farm, everybody knew I was Black and called me Black because they knew my mom was Black before they even met me. And so then I had this experience from 10 to 17 when I went to college of being considered Black, and because of my association with my mom. And having that feel a part of my identity because everybody felt like it was, with all their racist stuff layered into that. And then I went to college and, was outside of Baltimore. And and I was by myself. I wasn't with my mom anymore. And so then like everybody, you just are white, right? To them, to everybody. Right. So that's been interesting in my life too. How the world perceives me and my race in different contexts. And what do I do with that? What does that mean for me? And like you said, who do I tell how do I experience it? It's
and how do you tell it? You know, it's like, because we were in a conversation about race, so it was very organic. But like, if you're not having a conversation about race, it can be a little bit more like, hey, tap on the shoulder. This is something about me that's really shaped my worldview, which is important and valid. And I wish we could all sort of just do that. You know, here's some things that have really impacted the way I experience the world. Yeah. Because they do. And I mean, I think that experience, to me, when I hear that, it really feels like, oh, this is a real spotlight on how race is a construct.
Yep.
You know, like you're living that conversation.
I'm the same. And then I just move around and then all of a sudden it's totally different. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, oh, okay. So it really is about like, anyway, it's fascinating.
I know it makes you realize so many things. There was something else you were saying. I was in a group of women online that I hadn't met that much in person. And it was interesting, their experience and ideas of me. It was a mostly group of white women. And when things started happening with George Floyd, and I was like being very clear, and they felt like there was like room for negotiation, or like maybe they were right about certain things, or their perspectives needed to be valued. And it was just interesting where I had to put a lot of boundaries up around like, this is not, not with me.
It's not a conversation.
Yeah. I'm not doing that with you. Like,
yeah.
So there's been times like that in my life. I think, you know me, I'm pretty much an open book. So I think most people know, once they know me a little bit, they know most things about me. But
no, I mean, same. But then I will talk to someone and be like, oh, tell me this. I don't know this about you. I'm like, okay, so you haven't been stalking me on social media, because you would totally know.
Because you would know already.
Because it's out there. But that's cool that you're asking me questions like a human. Like, I'm into that.
We might actually get to know each other this way.
Right. Okay. Yeah, right on. But it's there if you're interested. And so this is something we also talked about. You live with chronic illness. And so I didn't know if that would be something, like, obviously that's not where you were from, but I didn't know if you would plant seeds, because I have many friends who live with chronic illness, because it is a reality of our world now. And one of them in particular will talk to me about the seeds that she felt were planted in her childhood for what she has now. And so I didn't know if you would, nod to that at all, but you did not.
Well, there was a little one.
Okay.
Sliced onions in your socks for a fever. And,
okay.
And even before that, from your smarter than the average bear only child expectations and sliced onions in your socks for a fever. I went back and forth about that. So one of the things I did for a long time was work with women with chronic illness.
Yes.
And
I almost put healer in your bio, but instead we put talker.
It's just so messy. Like we've talked about this, but people's journey through healing is so messy, and I'm so messy in it, right? Like it's hard.
I think that's the reality of healing.
That's the reality. But almost every woman I know with chronic illness, is at some point has been type A overachiever, had all these expectations of them. I really don't know a lot of women with chronic illness. I'm really trying to think, and it's a stereotype. I'm sure there are, but it seems to be part of being an overachiever and having high expectations.
I'm thinking of the women I know, and I mean, I would say that's definitely a trait.
It's a theme
as well. So, but how many women do you know who aren't overachievers? That's my next question. Like, how many women do you know who aren't trying to prove their worth a lot?
Yeah, I think, it changes as we get older.
Hopefully, thankfully.
Right. But it's hard. I mean, especially I think if you're attracted to, people that you can relate to some degree, and, there's some shared experience there. Right. So
That's true. But I'm like thinking of the girls I knew who weren't, because I went to public school until college. And so I was like with a fair, like cross section of life, I guess. And when I think of the girls who weren't like high achievers, I think many of them were dealing with like a shit ton of trauma,
That's true.
and we didn't have any of that language. It was just like, oh, she just can't get it together. Like, yeah, she can't get it together.
She's like truly surviving. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And
yeah.
no one is helping her.
Right.
Because that is definitely, I mean, it's still a huge problem, but I feel like it was more of a problem when we were younger. It was just like, well, if you can't get it done, that's on you. Like there couldn't possibly be any internal
all these
or
external factors.
Yeah.
Right. That are keeping
you couldn't be struggling with mental health at all. No. I mean, even though most people were as teenagers.
What you're saying is really hitting me, because I was actually having a conversation with a friend who's on the call right now, and like she's hi Rachel, this morning, and
oh no, you just went away. I can't hear you. Can other people hear Kim? Oh, now you're back.
Somebody was calling. Sorry.
Stop calling Kim. Just wait, whoever you are.
Okay, so I was just saying, women are walking around doing so much, even women who are coming out of overachieving, who are coming back to rest, who are coming back to themselves, right? And shedding childhood expectations and all of that stuff. They're still just doing so much, and their bodies are going through so much, and it's just never a part of the conversation. Like they're just still expected to do the things that they're doing. Sometimes it's mind blowing to me, because I just feel like I don't want to, and I can't do that. And I think that's really what my work is about. But right now it's mostly through friendship, which is like encouraging people, like take a nap, don't do the thing, whatever it is. Like for a year, my phrase was opt out, like just don't do the things, because
you're definitely the friend who will encourage you to take a nap. I hope I'm also that friend. Like if someone tells me they're laying down, I'm like, please lay down. Call me later. None of this is imperative, and I think none of it is.
None of it is. That's the thing. And everybody's like, oh, I don't have time to take a nap. It's like, I get it. And there are real circumstances that women, I mean, there's,
obviously, we're talking about women with privilege, who are the women that we are interacting with. Those are the women we're friends with. Like, I'm not talking about somebody who has 3 jobs and honestly, obviously we know they need to take a nap more than anyone, and they can't.
And that's the thing, right? How do we create structures where that's not the case? But
we have no safety net.
Full circle back to the illness, though, the sliced onions in your socks for a fever, like that was how my chronic illness showed up in childhood, and it does for my daughters as well.
Fevers.
Is a chronic fever. And so just I remember all these measures, home remedy, just everything, because my whole family was trying to always get the fever down, So it was usually a cool bath or sliced onions in your socks, and it's like the last thing you want when you feel bad.
I was going to say, does that work?
I've had some success with it. Who knows?
I mean, cool baths. I get that one. I mean, I know I've heard a story about me being put in an ice bath as a young child. I've heard that story many times when I was running in a very high fever. But I also wonder if having those recurring fevers, if there was also then that sort of scrambling to try and understand them.
That's what it is. And also scrambling to like get back to life, right? Like you're taken out of life, and then it's like, and then you have extra catch up to do to get back to whatever it is, to those expectations. So, yeah.
Well, hi Vivian, it's good to see you too. Any other thoughts or process or I don't know anything at all. We could talk for hours. So
I know we always can. I'm trying to think if there was anything else.
I love it because I know, so it's interesting for me being this person who listens, because lots of times I don't know the people that well. And then when I do know the people well, I always learn something about them. And I think that's what I really appreciate about the prompt, is that the way, like, speaking of how you framed your life, like these kind of this dichotomy, or these like diverging points of view, disparate, that was the word. um I mean, I've never heard you frame it that way, but it's so meaningful and it makes so much sense, because I think in general in life you're really good at holding like that two things can be true. Like, you aren't a person who is just like, ugh. I mean, specifically, we were dealing with a person, both of us, and you were good at like trying to see this person with compassion, which is something I really admire about you. And I think we can all see people we don't agree with more compassion.
Thank you. And even if I'm just encouraging everyone that even if they don't do this, I think just the simple prompt of where I'm from and like recording memories, you do start to pull threads. Like to me, this has inspired me to write more, but it was just a really good intro to get a lot of memories out. So thank you for that. and to find the threads that are important and what the themes are, so that you do have a place to start, because there are so many and it can seem overwhelming. And so this is a good way to provide a structure where it feels like you can start to pull.
It can feel really overwhelming. There's so much potentially that you can write about if you've lived a life, and so I find that like, it helps me even doing this or having conversations, because like, what do I continue to talk about? What is something that continues to come up? That's something I can then write about. But I think this is a container that you can view
get
your
started
childhood
with. Yeah, it can be a starting point, or if you're stuck, a good movement point. The last thing I'll say is, I read it to my parents this morning, and I didn't know what my dad might have gotten a little choked up, and my mom can't wait for me to email it to her. My dad said something interesting. He's like, it's really neat to have reflected back to you everything you tried to do and create. That was
really like sweet.
Yeah, like he felt like, oh, yeah. So that was really nice. So
that is nice. Aww.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really good. I mean, this, Allison, but my dad's had some, he almost died over a year ago. So like for him I feel like this was, and my mom too, she could see both sides of the family in it, so it was really good.
Rachel's crying, right?
Right, Rachel? Not crying.
Yes. I always kind of am on the border of crying.
I just walk around in that state.
Kind of. And then just my eyes water. I'm like, I don't know, my eyes are watering. But I think it's probably just because I'm just ready to cry. It's just right there.
Maybe that's the next call we do, Allison. We just all cry together.
It doesn't take much. I've always been like this, and I used to be super apologetic about it because I thought it was an indication that I was weak, that I was emotional, and that because I was surrounded by a lot of men who didn't cry.
Yep.
And the only person who didn't cry was my mother, who they were relentless about how she was too sensitive. And so I internalized that and would like try to quietly cry, which I think just makes you cry louder because you're like trying not to, it's like, I don't know, if it's like you hold a sneeze in, then you eventually sneeze and it's like explosive, the quiet crying, or it's like just down the face. Yes, I did that once on a date, which I have to say
held the sneeze in or cried?
No, cried, just lost it. We saw Forrest Gump, which was like,
oh, of course.
Are you kidding me? Like, you can say it's not a good movie. That's fine with me. I don't really care about whether it's good or not, but it is a complete tearjerker.
Yes.
So I was like swollen and red-eyed, and I was like, oh, so we're probably not going to kiss now.
I was going to say, when I cry, and I cry when I'm really mad.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and when I feel like I can't do anything about the thing I'm mad about, my face will stay red for like 3 hours. So like in school, for the entire school day, people would be like, why were you crying? What happened? Like I can't get away from it then. So.
And everyone loves being asked that.
Yeah.
Why were you
crying?
Always helps. That's really like, please draw attention to it more. Cause I don't feel weird enough. So yeah. I was totally one of the, like, if I hurt myself, I would just like be in a ball and be like, don't talk to me. I'll come out when
I
I'm
have
ready
one
to
of those.
engage with humans.
And also don't talk about it. Don't mention it.
No, it didn't happen. Don't tell me about anything that reminds me I'm human. I don't want to. That didn't happen. Well, this has
was
been
so
a
much fun.
real joy. And I'm so glad that because I know as a person who lives with chronic illness, committing to something like this is not like for people who don't live with chronic illness. So I know that, I appreciate it. And I'm grateful that it was positive
and it's
for you.
good. I think that's the other thing. This was the right level of commitment. It's always hard to know, right? Yeah. But that's the other thing I guess I want to encourage people about. Like, it's just, it's a really great level of just writing.
It's real low commitment.
Yeah.
It really is. And I try to explain that to people because was it you I was just talking to or someone else who was saying every time they watch these they're like, oh my God, the poems are so good. But doesn't mean they're working on it for hours. It just means it's authentic to who they are. So it shouldn't be intimidating.
People will be surprised at how much their memories with this framework. It's really like writing a Mad Lib.
I agree.
You want to stick to the structure.
If you want to, but you can break the rules.
My husband kept saying, just go off the structure. I'm like, yeah, but the structure that's the part of it that was fun for me was part of the challenge that helped give me the boundaries, right?
Yes. And it takes the pressure off. You're like, literally, if I just fill this out, it will be of interest. It will be important because you're being seen and heard. And that's what's powerful, so I try to let people know they don't need to be intimidated. Yes, there are some genuine poets who join me, but lots of people are not. And it's not about that. It's
just Mad Lib it.
Right? Even that. I was like, oh, if I ever had another dinner like I did years ago, what a fun way to start.
Oh, I love
you
that
each do this, and then share it and really just like Mad Libs. Nobody's getting highfalutin. Just no. It would be cool. I'm sure some people would be terrified, but you try to make it friendly and let them go last or not at all.
I like that.
Okay, well, you're invited.
I'll come back to that.
Well, thank you. Thank
you, Allison. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes.
Bye,
okay.
everyone.
Bye.